In my ancillary tasks, I created 5 posters. One of these posters was a collective poster of all 4 of my characters, and the other 4 posters were an individual character poster for each individual character. They were all supposed to look identical but also run together in one film. This is so you could associate one with another but also recognise a different identity with each character. This is done in the marketing campaign of Kick-Ass. You can see that each of their posters represents a different person, much like my film. I've used a white background on my poster but theirs is black. This is probably because Kick-Ass is more of an action film rather than a comedy, whereas mine is more of a comedy than an action film. Both of my films have a very easy to read font. This is because production companies don't want to make it difficult for an audience to recognise the film and maybe miss viewing it because they can't remember the title. The main image overlaps the title in both the professional product and my product. However, in the professional product this is much more apparent than in mine, where it's only slightly to one side. One major difference between these 2 products is that my poster is landscape whereas the professional product is portrait. This is more of a stylistic choice. I wanted to keep mine landscape because I felt that it's easier to introduce a character by putting them to one side and then putting the name on the other side joined by the title of the film. As you can see in their poster, they did not have room to fit the name of the superhero in the posters, so I think that it's much easier with a landscape. They also have very little credits, and although the date and the title and the character is viewable, you don't have any information such as reviews. As you can see, each poster has a different colour to it. They've done this because they want to associate each character with a colour so that you remember each individual identity. This is why I've done my product, and I think it's a very good technique for people to be able to recognise that there are 4 important characters in the plot. To illustrate the superhero genre, they've put the characters in the costume rather than their ordinary day-to-day clothes. This is what I've done in my product because if you didn't, then people might not recognise it as a superhero film and you may lose a large amount of an audience. The effect on the image in the Kick-Ass poster is like paint slapped onto a board, whereas mine is more posterised. I think effects are important because they imitate a comic book, which is largely where superheroes are from. Although they've used a different effect to me, I think that they both stand for the same reasoning and they both use the same kind of form and convention of it trying to be a comic book. The Kick-Ass campaign also created a collective poster much like mine. Theirs is almost identical to the individual posters, however it contains a slogan, the actors' names and more credits. At first glance, the collective professional product looks almost identical to the 4 individuals. However, it does contain a lot more information such as actors' names, a slogan, and more credits. This is because in a collective poster there is an opportunity to be more different and creative rather than follow the same layout. As long as there is some way to tie it in with the other 4 posters, it is possible to change features. This is much like what I have done. Although at first glance it looks different, much like in the Kick-Ass one, it features the 4 characters that are in the individual posters. These are still in their colour scheme, although it is a lot more subtle. This is because this poster may more be like a teaser rather than the one that's in Kick-Ass, which is obviously just a general poster for the movie. Much like in the Kick-Ass one, in this poster I have also featured the actors' names, which I did not on the individual posters. The effect on my images is largely like the posters in the Super campaign. Their images are very hand-drawn and almost look like something that you could create yourself. From this you can't tell who's acting in it, because the stardom is not important in this, it's more about the storyline, which is largely like my film. This poster also features the superhero name, which is also what mine does. This just provides insight on the plot, so you know exactly what is it about. Landscape posters are not uncommon in professional media texts. In Sky High, which is a family comedy superhero movie, they feature each individual character on one side, giving their superhero name on the right and the film title, which is much like my 4 posters. You can see that the poses the characters are doing are very similar in some cases because it is something that is commonly associated with superhero films, which is, a way to illustrate the genre. Because it is a family comedy kind of film, then they've used very bright colours, which is something I've also tried to do. There's also a lot of continuity in all 4 texts so that you can recognise each one with another but with different colours. Although my 4 posters are able to sit next to each other, and look like a unit. They do not culminate together to become another picture, which does happen in another Kick-Ass campaign. By putting the pictures together, you even read the film title. This is something I didn't do because I would rather, because it's landscape, I wanted it to just fit together like a square where they bordered the sides. I think this is an important difference because it does stand out and it brings all the titles together, so it's very hard not to read the title of the film.